Welcome back, everybody, to Lit versus Genre. This is Steve,
And Jeff,
and we are at the White Bridge, the mysterious, the beautiful, the glass-like,
I was
the
just saying the
age
glass
of
game.
Age of Legends White Bridge.
Yeah. Age of Legends with asterisks, maybe. Right?
Right, we're not sure. Who knows? Who knows who
Right.
built this thing? No, it's
We
too
could.
old. It's too old to have any idea who built this thing. But the Aes
Agreed.
Sedai did it, actually. Is that what they like? I think they landed on that at the end.
Well, Tom says that he thinks it was the Aes Sedai, and then Bale's
Hmm.
like, oh, it doesn't have to be. We don't need to put that kind of bad juju on the bridge. Bridge is useful. Let's just enjoy the useful bridge.
We love Bridge. Bridge is good.
So
I
obviously we got the harp.
Yeah, we
Oh,
got the
sorry, go
harp,
ahead.
so we know it's
Mhm.
gonna be a Tom chapter, and quite a
Mhm.
Tom chapter
Very
that
Tom.
that we get. I guess I wanted to ask because again, like, yeah, the beginning of this thing is just the well, first Tom harsh, a pig will never play the flute about Matt. That's like pretty. That's
Yep.
pretty rough. Um, Also, I do like this. This will show me not to trust what I don't know firsthand, which seems to be like this
hmm
motif that Jordan is hitting over and over and over again.
Can
Um,
we say themes?
themes,
Themes, maybe?
indeed. But then I feel like then he does make some kind of wild assumption, like immediately after saying that. I can't remember
Hey,
now
habits are
what it
hard to break.
was. Yeah, it's true. It's
It's
true.
easy to fall back in. I was gonna say I do like that we come in mid-scene to this like terrible playing of Matt. Like that's the
Yeah, that was
entry
funny.
into the
That
month.
was funny.
So I enjoyed that, and I also like that it plays with something that even I think we still, I mean, barely maybe, but I think the mythos still exists of shepherders playing like pipes. You know what I mean?
Oh,
um, or like sheep herder. Like and I feel like there's enough in fairy tales and kind of things of a sheep herder, and they're
right.
just sitting there, so they play pipes or something, right? So I thought it was funny that Matt's like, I'm not the sheep herder, it's Rand, and then Tom's like, oh yeah, he's actually not that bad. So I don't know, I just enjoyed that like little callback
And
to Rand's beginnings.
Matt is just like a townie, I guess. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't herd
Mhm.
the sheep. What does he do? I know Perrin was like the blacksmith
he
kid,
was
right?
help he was helping his dad. It would seem like mainly he just got into trouble and did odd
Yeah,
jobs.
yeah. He did general
Probably
thugs.
random, exactly. Probably
All
random
right,
stuff for his dad. You know the
cool.
type.
Cool. So, yeah, and when I was reading this again, I felt like this whole bridge
Mhm.
thing was like catnip to you, and I do wonder, do is this a pretty common fantasy staple, or does Jordan hit that a little bit more than like other fantasy writers do?
Like the level of world building.
I mean, I guess just like this whole idea that like everything's so old and like been there
Um,
forever that it's so old we don't even
hmm.
know like who these giant statues are of or who built this like incredible bridge, like that sort of stuff. Um,
No, I think he does it more and successfully, at least for, someone who wants to read the world building because it creates the layers, right?
mm-hmm.
It's like you're not just seeing like this at face value. You're seeing stuff that's like so old the people that are here don't even know who made it, right? So it creates
Right,
this feel of history, not just about like an individual person's history or even a country's history, but just like the world's history. So
right.
um, and that's cool. An interesting thing that this made me think about, and it's funny how, media can shape things, but it's been announced that they're going to do, I can't remember if it's a show or a movie of the Age of Legends. So
Oh,
not only is Amazon already
whoa.
starting to film, yeah, not only is Amazon starting to film season two of Wheel of Time before season one has even come out, but apparently they've got like a scriptwriter for Age of Legends, that they're going to do something none of us have seen, which is like what it was like in its heyday. You know what I mean?
Okay, so they are all in on this. They're like
Hmm. Yeah,
banking on this being a major hit. Well, I had
yeah,
some like thoughts about that because we were talking
hmm yeah,
last
yeah.
episode about it focusing on Lorraine. Moraine. Why did I say Lorraine? I'm not sure. Not Seinfeld. Moraine, and like, so yeah, I had some thoughts about that. I guess we'll get to that in just a second. It was more when they were like with
Cool.
the innkeeper,
Yeah, yeah.
talking with the innkeeper.
Hmm, hmm.
Um, all right. So what? Oh, Gleb or Gelb. It was like
Hmm.
clearly this guy's gonna come back up. I just wasn't like sure exactly how. And he comes
Sure.
back. He comes back actually in a surprisingly benign way. I mean, like we were making
Hmm.
such a big deal about him. Keep your eyes out
Right.
for him. I was like, man, Gelb's gonna totally mess
Mhm.
something up for them. But
Right.
then,
Right.
nah.
To
Uh,
answer your, I was just going to quickly answer something previous said, and then also say my, a response to Gal.
yeah.
Was what actually I think the Whitebridge thing is creating the majesty, right? Again, of still someone from a small town seeing these like things they've never seen before, right?
Mm,
And I think that Jordan does do a very nice job of that, creating that sort of travel log feel, like we're in this new place, and this new place has this new thing. Just like if you were traveling around Europe, you'd be like, oh, and here's the Leaning Tower of Pisa. You know what I mean? Like
mm,
places have things to see or something they're known for, you know?
yeah.
And so I think that that really scratches that travel itch that I know I have. Obviously cheaper to read a book than fly to Europe. So that works out nicely. And then also what did it for me was the carriages. There's a random thing, like these carriages that pull up that have like different names on them. And then they end up being the same as those like
Oh,
in the square. And it's like, oh, what's up with this town, you know? So like, yeah, no, the fact that even a town has its own story that we may not even get into,
mm-hmm.
that to me is like just fun in terms of the catnip of world building. And then yeah, with Gelb, it's like I was a little surprised how quickly he came back, but I think you're right. I think part of the way it
Oh, it's
works that
so
he does come back so
foreshadowed.
right, so foreshadowed, and then he comes back like right away.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of cool that he comes back in, as you say, a benign way, in a way that's stressing them out, right? Because the
Mm,
innkeeper's already freaked out. Rand's like, when is this dude going to put three and three together? We need to jump out a window, right? Like, but I thought it was interesting because, yeah, you're right. It's heavily, heavily foreshadowed that, like, why would we spend all this time on Gelb if it's not going to come back up, right? Then it does immediately, but maybe not in the way we're expecting with like Gelb stabbing them in an alley or whatever.
well, I was thinking about the White Bridge because I was like, okay, yeah, I feel like this is like a more effective. Like I feel the aura of this
Mm, hmm,
more
hmm.
so than in other things, and I think it's because of that air of mystery that like I feel like
Yeah.
I'm more used to in. Not that I'm trying to think of what other things I've read, but even in like fantasy movies or things that I've seen,
Sure.
somebody knows what's up. Like they like sure these places maybe they haven't been to before, but there seems to be this like knowledge of
Right.
everything, right? Where they're like, "Oh yeah, this is Castle so and so where
Hmm,
Count what's
hmm.
his face, once did this back in the day." And they
Right,
all
right.
know everything. And what felt unique to me, or is feeling unique to me about this, is that there's like, yeah, we have no idea why this thing is here, and it gives it like that,
Hmm,
like kind of weird, sort of creepy, almost like Stanley Kubrick-ish,
hmm.
monolith appears out of nowhere, like sort of just
Yeah.
aura to it. That yeah, I thought was cool.
No, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. I think that's why there is such a debate between the soft and hard magic. A lot of people feel like the hard magic systems take the magic out of magic, you
Mm.
know? And I think that's kind of what you're describing here, the
Mm-hmm.
lack of knowledge, that wonder it creates,
Right.
right? So
Right.
yeah, no, no, no. Thank you for pointing that out. I think that's a really cool moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, they get out and like Captain is like, we love you, Gleeman. Come with us and travel with us. And Gleeman's like, yeah, maybe, and we gotta find our friends. Blah blah blah.
I love his reason. Like the Damon's reason is maybe if you're here, you'll distract my crew from how hard I ride them.
About what a
Right?
jerk I am. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like I want to be such a big jerk to my crew. Please stay on so they don't notice. It just felt very self-serving as opposed to just like, oh, you make them laugh or something. Like it just felt human, you know. So
Right.
I enjoyed that.
So I would say even at that part when they're having that discussion,
Hmm.
again I was coming up, and it is amazing because it finally happens in this chapter. But again, I was like, why does Thom not take this deal like
Mm-hmm.
on the
Right.
spot, right? Like he's like,
Mhm.
oh, we're gonna go to this this like gleeman competition or something
Oh
like
yes.
that. The showdown is like the American Idol
Mm,
of gleemans, and you
that's
could
where I would love
go.
to go.
Yeah, we'll take you there. You know, blah blah blah
Yep.
blah. I'll do all this. Oh, and there's something else that I need to dig in on because I didn't go back and reread. But anyway, Tom's like, yeah, let me get back to you, and I'm like, God, I just feel like it's so
Mhm.
weird that this guy is at every turn not making
Yeah.
any sort of self-serving decisions. You know, as we're going through this, like, why is he tied to these boys or to this entire quest? Um, the other thing I was wondering is the captain. I did not highlight this, so maybe you can
Mm.
help me find it. But the captain
Yeah, sure.
gives them back their stuff,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so when I saw that, I assumed that means the coins
Right.
that he took. Then later, when they're in the inn, though, Thom doesn't give them back those coins.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
Rand is kind of like, oh, he must not have given us back the coins.
Yep.
So that is my one big question of this chapter because, and I meant to go back
Yeah.
and try and find where that had happened. It's before all this Bartum stuff to see if I had misread that because I just naturally assumed he had given back the coins, and I'm like, okay, here we go. This is how Marine's going to be able to find him again, and all that. Oh, your fare's
Mhm.
back,
Yeah.
and a bit more besides. But the fares was the coin, right? But I guess
Right.
like he could just assess the value and not give them
Mhm.
back the exact same coins. But it really did
Well,
lead me down the road of thinking like, oh, they got their coins back, cool.
oh yeah. Well, I think that's why Rand's justified in thinking about the coin too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like if he was thinking the same as you, where he's like, "Where's my coin then?" Right?
Right.
But yeah, it's hidden right here because the captain produced a large leather purse from his coat and tossed it to Thom, right? So we just see the bag.
Right.
We don't know what's in the bag. So then it becomes that question of, right, did Daman choose to keep it or did Thom keep it,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like when he was handing out the money, did he purposely not give that Tarvalon coin, right?
Right.
Or the Spectre coin, right? But yeah, it's a fun, to me, little mystery moment, but it did seem like you maybe had something else with it.
No, I was just wondering because like okay, so and now I have too much meta going on at this point because this is a part where Scott was like he said in the comments I forget like 2 episodes ago that I'd be eating crow soon, and I assume he means about Thom because we get the sort of hero
The
turn
speech.
from Thom, and like
Mhm.
Matt does finally ask the question that I've been like, why have
Right.
y'all not been asking this whole time? Which is, why the heck are you coming with us? Like, after all this time, why are you coming with us? And so he drops this story.
Right.
Well, I'm sure I highlighted it about.
I
Oh
think it
yeah,
was, I
I
think,
just wanna highlight this
yeah.
sentence. Who do you dare to tell that the dark one is touching you? And I just thought, oh man, phrasing, Rand, phrasing. I thought like a
Yep.
cop show where they hold up the doll and they like show us on the doll where the dark one
I
is
thought,
touching you.
I thought this was brought up for parallels between this and Lolita with what we're reading
Yes, indeed,
due to the chapters
indeed.
having some judgment. But when it comes to this part, yeah, no, I mean, you seem like you're about to start, so please go ahead,
No,
finish
I
what you were going to
mean,
say
I
about
was like, finally, Matt, like, right on.
it.
Like, why aren't you guys asking this the whole time? And this is, of course,
Mhm.
what stoked my suspicion about Thom the whole time because there is
Sure, of
no
course.
really good reason
Oh,
why he's
yeah.
doing all this. And so then we get this reason. And I guess my question to you is, like, how. I'm not even talking like Robert Jordan's trying to trick us here. I'm saying, like, even if I take this reason at face value, it's 100% true, like, just how
Mhm.
convincing do you find this and how it was, like, presented here?
Hmm. Well, to me, I feel like it really, this is the breaking point, right? And what I mean by that is, I think this is the point that any reader is going to be like, why is this dude with them, right? Like obviously you've been asking this question for quite some time, but I think this is the moment where it's like, okay, an answer has to be provided, right? We've reached that point in the narrative. I think up until this point there could be some argument that Ren and Matt are at the end of the day kids, and getting to be with some form of adult figure is preferable and can lead them to not wonder about something that would be against their best interest.
How old
But
are they, Jeff? How old are they? Because elsewhere in
I
the
don't
chapter, he's
know.
like, I don't buy this whole thing that they're like these like so young that they need to be chaperoned. Because like elsewhere
Right.
in the chapter, he's like, dude, you're too tall, scrunch down. Like everybody looks at you. I mean, these are like
Oh
big
yeah, he's
strapping farm boys here. You know, like
oh
so.
he's grown up. I just
Right.
meant you're chased from creatures out of nightmares, and you've only ever been in your small town. I think you might want to guy around. But obviously, again, this could all be resolved if those thoughts had happened, right? Like
Right.
if Rand had been like, "Why is this little guy following this?" Whatever. Thank goodness he is, because I would not want to go through this, crap storm
Exactly.
alone.
I feel
Right.
like it
Precisely.
feels clunky here because, like you said, it is maybe the breaking point. I don't know. I
Right.
think my breaking point was a while ago, wondering why,
Oh, sure,
or that's
for
what
sure.
seeded my suspicions of him because
Mhm.
it's a kind of a plot hole. Like it doesn't
Sure.
make sense, and
Right.
so then to like kind of just drop it here. Um,
Hmm.
right before he dies. It felt to me like those like cop shows or like war movies where you get this like one side character's
Oh yeah.
sad
Hmm.
backstory and then you're like, "Oh, that guy's marked for death. He is
Completely.
dying. He is
Oh yeah.
going down." And it felt like that and I was like, "Oh, this feels kind of
You're dead. You're
lame."
dead, Tom. You're dead, Tom.
Yeah.
No, tropes for days with that. It's funny. It's really big in anime too. I think
Mm.
it's just a major story trope, and I think the reason why it exists, right, is because the writer is looking for character buy-in. They know if they just kill someone that you don't really have an investment in, you're
Mm.
not going to care, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, I need to kill this character. Crap, they don't care about him yet. let me let me tell you a story that's gonna make you care, right?
Right.
So yeah, no, this has trope smeared all over it. Um, what I will say in terms of like convincing or not, I would say that people do things for their own reasons. I can buy someone just doing it and not telling anybody until asked, right? In terms of, am I completely sold? I have always been a fan of, your distrust of Thom. And it's been too long for me. I can't live that again. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I don't know what I was feeling in high school when I first read. Did I not trust Thom? Maybe. I don't know. It was over 20 years ago. I can't say. So I think the read you have of it is a completely just response. Like, why is this random old gleeman? Is he a gleeman? And dark friends can be anybody. This like Cylons, basically. Um, you know, I like this whole not trust game thing. So I even like here, okay, convenience that you had, this nephew, right?
Right.
Now, the fact that then he runs up against the mirror draw at the end, either that's some amazing stuff. I'm going to do a quick aside here. I will never forget a game of Mafia. And for those who don't know Mafia, you go to sleep, you point, you kill someone, you wake up, you try to figure out who the Mafia was. There was a brilliant move where the person who was the hidden Mafia killed themselves. They killed themselves, all right?
Hmm.
Counting on the doctor to save them. So then we all wake up. It's revealed that the person who was killed is this person, right? But they were saved by the doctor. For the rest of the game, we completely trusted this person, and they dismantled and destroyed us poor villagers.
Right.
And they totally won. Of course, right? So perhaps this is the most brilliant dark friend move ever, right?
Ah, well,
To get trust.
that's really
Or
funny for you to say, a
here's the
person
thing.
who has
Yeah,
read the rest of the book.
right,
I mean, I did note
right,
that there was no body, and
right.
like the boys run away before
Well,
seeing the deed completely done. So that door definitely was still open in my mind that maybe there's some shenanigans going on here.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because I think that at this moment in time, you've got two paths you can follow. You can be like, oh, he was legit. He just wasn't saying it, which, we can feel either way about that. But he was true, and now he's dead. right?
Mm.
Or maybe he was a fake and this is all some ruse, right? Although the way the scene's carried out, it doesn't, and that's what I was going for with like the ruse idea. Um, it does seem a bit extreme to be a ruse. So then it does lead to this idea that it's true. And then I think what we're getting is that sort of leaves a sour taste in your mouth. Am I correct
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, because
Correct.
like it
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
seemed like it seemed like a cast off reason that I easily could have gotten a long time ago. So I'm not
Right.
sitting here reading for the whole time going like, what's up with this? Is this like
Right.
not fully inhabiting the character? Is this I am fully inhabiting the character? I'm supposed to be suspicious of this guy. And I'm not sure up to this point, like, Jordan's intention was for me to be distrustful of Thom to the level that I
Mm,
was. I mean, maybe that was his
right.
intention, but it sort of doesn't feel that way. I can't know for sure, but it feels more
Right.
like, and this is one of the things that like I have trouble with reveal type
Mm,
stories is that it often leaves your reader in the trap of going, wait, is there some reveal about to happen? Or is there just a massive plot hole right here? And you're like, it could be either one. I don't know which one it is. Eh,
when you first experienced it, you're saying like pre-book, like I mean, pre this chapter before when you were
yeah,
feeling the question about time. Cool. I just wanted
right.
to clarify for our listeners because it took me a moment to be like, wait, which moment is he talking about? You mean like when we first see these strange actions from Thom? The
Right.
question, yeah, like is it a plot hole or is it
Right.
this character just needs a reveal? Yeah.
Right. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking like either this character is not being fully inhabited, he's here for plot
Sure.
reasons and the author
Right.
isn't considering his motivations,
Mm-hmm.
or there's something shady going on that I'm supposed to be picking up on
Right.
and it's a trick. And I can't think of a movie right now, but there have certainly been movies where you're like the whole time you're like I'm not buying any of this and actively not enjoying it, and then they're like, "Oh, gotcha." The screener is like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, gotcha. The reason why none of this made sense is because it was all this, twist that I made
Right.
up at the end." And like I find that not super fulfilling at the end to go like, "Oh, you tricked me into thinking your movie was bad, but then at the end you reveal it's actually good because it was all a twist." I'm like, "No, it doesn't that's not really good. I'm not any happier now at the end of
Um,
this."
I
Uh
feel like I love that phrase. You tricked me into thinking your movie was bad.
right. Like, why would you do that? Why would you choose to do that? So like I
Oh
really
my goodness.
dislike reveals. I don't think they're
Oh,
very good.
oh
Whereas
my
like
god.
if I had
Oh,
known, if Thom had said some of this stuff before, then I'm like, okay, that whole
true,
conversation where
true.
Thom feels uncomfortable when they're talking about gentling, okay, now that makes
Mhm,
sense in
mhm.
retrospect. And I guess you can say that's good. I have my answer to it. But it doesn't kind
Right.
of erase in that moment when I was like, what? Why is everybody's reaction so weird right here? And
Right.
like it doesn't erase that from my memory. I still had to like read that part at that moment and be like, this doesn't make sense, when it could have very easily have all made sense and I could be empathizing with the characters and the reactions at that moment. Like I feel like I would get more out of knowing what's up with these characters so I can relate and connect to
Yeah.
them versus, ooh, this is now revealed right before he dies.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think this is, why beta readers and stuff become really important. And, who knows how many beta readers had this? Was this just Jordan and his wife? Were there a bunch of people? I mean, obviously the editor, of course,
Mm,
so on and so forth. But because, I think that some people, well, obviously a decent reviewer, are going to read it and it's going to be completely fine, right? It's not, they're not
sure,
going to be
sure.
worried about it. They're not going to be stressed about it, right? Because it's not that big a change, right? To layer some of that in earlier. Though, of course, you do have to wonder, like, because as a writer, it can be tricky thinking about, well, I like this reveal moment. And then as a writer, you already know what's up, assuming you knew that to
Mm-hmm.
begin. And it can feel clever, I think, as a writer. Like, I feel
Mm,
like I've done that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, I'm writing and I'm like, this is cool, right? Like, this is cool. Like, I'm hinting at it. but they don't really know. But then, yeah, I think it's hard as that writer to know, but are what you are doing with the character taking them too far outside the realm of believability
Right.
for the reader to enjoy, right?
Right.
And I think that's where getting like multiple eyes on a project can help let you see that, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I hear you. Like as we've talked about, I think with the Thom journey that we've been on, I love the journey we've been on with Thom personally. I like seeing it from that other angle because, like I said, I can't remember my first experience. So part of the joy of this to me, even if you're not always enjoying what's happening, is getting to see that reader experience firsthand and thinking about how I might have felt the same or wondering, you know. So yeah, no, I hear what you mean for sure. In terms of this story, I do think, like you said, that moment that you can remember that Thom was uncomfortable with gentling, you know, leads some support to that this is true. And then, you know, it does create that hit. I think for a lot of readers, Thom has been kind of the kindly old man, and then he sacrifices himself for the kids, and now we got the kids on their own, right? And so I think that that, you know, is going to be a poignant moment for a lot of people. But I think you've also pointed out a danger with the way it was carried out. And
Wouldn't
so I
it
think that's another benefit of this is us talking about those choices, right?
wouldn't
Oh, go
it
ahead.
be stronger, perhaps more poignant, if Thom was acting a bit more in it for himself? You know, like
Mm,
he was trying to convince the boys, leave Moraine and everybody behind. Let's just get out of here. He was totally on
mm,
board to take this deal to go to the Gleeman American Idol. And then he sacrifices himself anyway. Like we don't get
I want to
Owen.
see that.
We don't get, this like blanket
Mm,
explanation. He just has to make that decision. He's placed in a point in time where like he can either save these kids who he's kind of been telling like, look, I'm gonna ditch you guys. I'm gonna go do this. But then he comes through and causes a distraction and saves them. I feel like that would be like stronger than
mm, mm.
Owen. Oh yeah, it's just Owen. It's just spelled weird. Owen.
Yeah, it's just one. Yeah.
So like I don't know. Like I feel like I would buy him more. Like I don't. I know it. I feel like it
Mm,
is true, this Owen story, but I just don't like buy it on
mm.
a narrative level. I'm not a fan of it. I would be like
Right.
chop that.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a character standpoint, so I mean, there's so much to unpack with this, but I'll look through it quickly. From a character standpoint, I think all his actions are legitimate. He could be a grumpy old man that doesn't want to tell his story, find the reveals that when asked point blank, and then sacrifice himself. So I don't think he's done anything that is out of character for him personally, right?
Mm,
I think the trouble is that what it can create in the reader wondering in the fact, I think really it's more of a Rand problem almost. Why has Rand not been wondering about this old man? Why is
right.
Rand not asking the question? Why is Matt? I really think Rand kind of becomes this almost non-character in the story.
Mm,
I feel like I've noticed there are many times where other people are doing a lot of the action and he's
mm,
sometimes thinking about it. Even in these, when he's thinking about things, I don't feel a great deal for Rand in these parts. I am feeling more for the other characters. And in some ways, I think that's useful. It's a vehicle for us as the reader to go through. But then if Rand doesn't ask the questions that we as readers are thinking, then it leads to a disconnect moment like this. So I do just want to point out that difference, and I think that's what you're saying too. Like, the ways Rand, that Tom's acting is, true for him, but in terms of us reading it as a narrative, it could be problematic
right.
for the reasons
Right.
pointed out. Now, in terms of this speech and getting rid of it, I do think you're proposing something interesting, right? Because you're actually proposing an even more delayed reveal as to why he's doing it, right? You're
Well, I
proposing,
mean,
like,
I think like what you do is you set up a situation where like his motivation is self-interest, which everybody's
true.
to a certain extent is going to be that, right? And so like he is like, look guys, and this is how he kind of felt on the boat, right? He's like, look guys, we'll find them or we don't find them, we just gotta get the heck out of here, we gotta look out for ourselves. And he's been kind of
Right.
like hitting that note for a while.
Sure.
And like I feel like you push that, but then when push comes to shove, when it's like, oh, this thing's gonna kill somebody you've been traveling with right now, you
Mhm.
might do something. You might make a decision contrary to
Right.
what you've done before, and now you're letting that action show the depth of the character versus let me give this pretty pat trite story about why he's doing this. Don't do that. Let the action, let the decision tell you something deeper and something surprising about the character.
Yeah, I think then readers would have more of a question as to why he did that, and it would be unsatisfying if it wasn't revealed at some point why he did.
I don't
So I
think
feel like
so.
that would
I,
end up
I, I
being
have to disagree because I mean I think like you would save somebody. You would somebody who's like the I don't know the worst most selfish person in the world might in a moment of extreme peril do
true.
something that they wouldn't like usually do or that the reader wouldn't expect. And in fact, that's kind of what makes a character interesting is when a character can surprise you. Um, and I don't feel like this story really surprised me. I want to see an action or a decision that surprises me or that adds a new layer to a character that I thought I already knew. And this like story, this like very handing you the motivation doesn't feel as fulfilling as being able just to see something happen in real time.
Yeah, I think that one. I mean, I see what you mean, like for sure, that getting to see as a showing, not telling, right? Of
Mm-hmm,
course. So
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I see the rationale behind that. But I think I mean, obviously, I can't say for sure, but I think that would end up being more controversial than this. This feels more like standard, and again, real. I feel like this is how people can be. They can just reveal, like, yeah, no, there was something that was related, and that's why I care.
I
It's
mean,
not
but
revealing
right,
something new
but
or
real
surprising.
isn't like the purpose, of writing. Like you hear that a lot, especially in like writing
Oh, sure.
workshops when anybody like gives a criticism of something. They're like, "Oh, but that actually happened to me the other day," and you're like, "No,
Oh,
shut
right.
up! Like that's not what we're talking about. Like it doesn't." I could accept that this is real. Is this a stronger narrative choice?
I think the other one would be more controversial and make people feel more the way you have been feeling personally.
All right. Well, we'll agree to
That's
disagree because I think that's
that's what I think.
straight up wrong.
That's what I think the danger is with that, um, because we would just never know his motivation then, and it would just seem really weird. Like we just have this old guy who just not only is nice enough to follow people along, but then give his whole life for them.
Yeah, I don't I don't
That's
know why he
pretty
was following him
extreme.
along. It doesn't fix that problem why he's been following him the whole time. You're right. I mean, I just think that's
Right.
just an inherent problem. I was just like I don't think there was anything I was ever going to buy that would like make me accept that. Like even if it's like you're oh, I'm like so let's go through his thinking. He's like, "Oh, my my what is it? My brother's kid. So is
I
that
feel
my
like
cousin
I feel like
first
we should
removed? Is that what that is? I
I feel like we should do something just real quick. I feel like we should just
nephew
wrap up. I feel like
nephew.
we should wrap up. Any other
So
thoughts
I'm
about the
hearing Two
chapter?
Rivers, and so I'm gonna go along with these kids because they remind me of my nephew. Like I just don't. Yeah, I don't. This
I,
is
I was just saying
nonsense.
we could just put a pin in this, wrap up the
All
chapter,
right,
and then if anyone wants to say
all
after, we can
right.
continue the discussion of because no, I'm happy to talk about that motivation because that is one of the major reasons I'm saying is that I think as written it does both things, maybe in a not as clean way as it could have, whereas the other wouldn't. But let's just pause on that one. Any other thoughts about the chapter, and then we'll go late with the rest for anyone who wants to hear.
Well, so clearly Patton Fane is the dude who's ratting him out
Right,
everywhere.
right.
So that it's not stated, but it's pretty clear that that's what's going on.
I was surprised that Rand didn't think of that. I like how Rand was just like, I have no idea who that is. I'm like, you just saw Rand. You just saw Pat and Fane and Allie were acting crazy. I mean, granted, I mean, if they had just been coming off a chase or something, I don't know. The moments to me that through rereading, I was like, would it? Was one, them not knowing Pat and Fane. I'm like, really? I feel like you would know that. And then two, there's a moment where Tom is like, Matt, are you cool with me going with you now? And that was the moment that I was like, I don't really feel like you've quite provided a reason why you need to go with them at this stage. So those were actually the moments to me that
No,
as a reader
I
I
thought that
paused
kind of
on.
went hand in hand with the Owen thing, where he's like,
Well, it's actually before that. It's at the top of the same page before
mm,
the Owen description.
right,
It's when it's when they start to be worried about separated and gives them money and everything.
mm-hmm,
And Rand says, I thought you were staying with us. And Tom says, I am, boy, I am, but they're getting close now. And the light only knows, basically saying maybe we get separated. Well, no matter, it isn't likely will happen. Tom paused, looking at Matt. I hope you no longer mind me staying with you, he said dryly, as if some really good reason had just happened. The only reason was Gleb or Gelb telling stories about three people. So actually, it seems like if they were separate, they'd be doing better from Gelb's
no,
stories.
that
So that's
wasn't
actually a
that in
moment for me.
response to Matt. That was in response to something Matt said earlier.
Yeah, Matt's like, he asks, why are you,
Yeah,
where was it? He says, no, Matt's telling him to leave
right.
previously. Matt says for him to go, right? And so I guess he's saying like, now that you're in danger from Gelb, are you sure you don't want me around for my help? Basically, I guess is what he's going for with that one.
Yeah, I thought it
Because
was just
before,
like a dig at Matt or something.
yeah,
You know, just like kind of, yeah.
sure. I'm just saying that's the one that gave me pause because it's like it seems like you'd be better off if you weren't three people with Gelb telling stories about three people. So,
Yeah.
but anyway,
Yeah,
just
I
as
mean,
like my little two moments.
yeah, it just seemed weird that Tom's so offended by by not saying this. Like, go back to the boat, we'll take care of ourselves. And
Right.
like, and his thin shoulders shook with silent laughter, but his voice was anger tight. And I was like, oh, yeah. I was just like, you're so mad that Matt is saying this, like, I don't know, pretty, I just thought was pretty
He's
normal thing to
he's
say.
he's taken them under his wing.
He loves
Um,
them. He loves these boys.
right.
They remind them of Owen. Okay.
Okay. Well. Okay.
Um,
Okay. Oh, the
So the
Owen.
other
Okay.
thing I was
No. Yeah.
gonna say before we wrap this one
Hmm.
up is that I was thinking. So this is also
Hmm.
like this chapter is also like exposition ground zero right here of like a lot of things
Oh,
with
Logain and everything.
Logain
Hmm.
and him being captured and like them taking
Right.
him to town and everybody going, oh, we should go and see this and this is what stories are made out of, blah blah blah. And I was
Hmm.
actually wondering, well, like if they're like, oh, we're gonna make Moraine the lead character of this, I actually
Mm.
wonder if we're gonna jump around because there. I was like reading this and I'm like, there's this whole other story just happening concurrently with
Yeah.
our story that we're just not getting and we're getting told to
Right.
us secondhand. And I was like, I wonder if the show, because shows like to, jump around to different characters, it kind of works a little bit
Oh,
better
cool.
in show
Yeah.
form to do the Game of Thrones thing and jump around. And I was like, I
Yeah.
wonder if we will like get
Mm.
Logain right at the beginning of this thing and like get like checking in with this war and these like other things that are happening away from the boys, and if that might
Oh,
be a departure that they take for the
especially
show.
because it would be so action heavy. That's
Right,
really
right,
interesting. Yeah. It does seem like something that they would think about. They'd be like, audience was one action. Show them Logain getting captured by
right.
by Aes Sedai. Like a chance to see like male and female Aes Sedai versus each other. Show it.
Mm.
So yeah, no, I could totally see them doing that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. We'll have to just do
Cool.
episodes when
We will,
when those show comes
obviously.
out.
And that'll be fun. Like, I mean, because at the end of the day, like that's what this is, about. Well, I mean, it's a deconstruction, but also the
Yeah,
joy of it.
yeah.
Um, so anything else at the end with the mirror draw and them being frozen? Any last thoughts before we wrap this chapter up and then go into overtime?
No, no. I mean, that didn't strike me as too weird. I mean,
Hmm.
the thing's scary, and so you get frozen in fear. But maybe you're hinting out there's some sort of other power or something they
Right.
have over them. Um,
Yeah, I liked it. I like the idea of them all just stuck there as everyone else is running away in this
Mm-hmm.
like big square. It was just cool imagery. I could see that being shot
Oh,
really awesomely.
the one other thing I didn't buy was the innkeeper being like, it does the same sort of thing that the captain does. Is like, oh, you gotta tell stories in my inn. You'll make so much money. I'll
Hmm.
knock a little bit off the price of the room. And then
Hmm.
he goes through his whole story, and he's like, oh, and the Mirjaw mentioned a white bearded gleeman, and I'm like, whoa, you know, this whole time, like this guy with no face came and talked to you and said, hey, I'm looking for this white
Okay.
haired gleeman, and like you've been talking to the dude the whole time, but it's only when they mention somehow perfect descriptions. Also, I love this where they like he just gives like the perfect description of like moraine and land that's like just specific enough, but not too specific. It's not until they say them does the innkeeper go, oh wait, you guys got to get out of here. And I'm like, dude, you knew exactly that this guy matched the description of the people you're supposed to not have anything to do
Yeah.
with.
Yeah, that one I did not notice in the moment, but that is a good point. I mean, again, I feel like that's yeah, part of me is just like that's ridiculous. Another part of me is like this guy has been shown to be a little bit slower, so I could see the wheels turning and then him being like fitting it together. But yeah, it is strange that like the descriptions the other. But I feel like that's he hears the descriptions of them, then he's like, wait, those are the same descriptions Miro told me. Wait a second, you're an old
Yeah.
gleeman, right?
That would have been funny if it played it that way. I
Right?
would,
Right?
I
Like
would like that.
his eyes widen a little bit. Like I think
Wait
that's
a
what
second.
I think that's what they're gonna do in the
All
show. I'm
right.
calling it right. I'm calling it right now. Dollar bet in the show. He's gonna have this moment, eyes opening.
Oh,
I was like, wait a second.
can I ask you a question too? The Queen of the Aes
Bring it.
Sedai is not the queen of like everyone, is it?
Oh no, no.
So I've never seen the queen. Man ought to see his own queen, don't you think?
Right.
The innkeeper says. And that's her name? Am I
Mhm.
thinking this all right? Queen Morghese?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's Green again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why does he say that? That seems... I guess they like kind of feel like the Aes Sedai lord over them, even though it's not like technically their
Uh,
queen or something.
I think he's just a dude talking about let me see and take him there to show Queen Marquez.
Oh,
I think
like
it's just a rational
Loghain's?
train of thought.
This is Loghain's queen?
No, well, it's so let me back
Oh,
up. I
I've
think
never
he's
seen
just
a queen, yeah.
yeah, he's basically just telling a story that then involves his queen, and then I think he just kind of launches into an aside of being like, I've never seen the queen. Should the man get to see his own queen? Like, I think that's what's happening.
No,
Just
yeah,
that
I get that.
he lives in an area that has a queen, and that's I actually really enjoy that moment. It just felt like a dude talking, who's living in this world where there's a queen.
Yeah,
So, but yeah,
yeah. I do
just
like
thought
it. And I do like how
I just thought
in this big whole thing of
Mhm.
exposition, that's like the
Mhm.
direct
Right,
line. So we're getting like backstory, 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 which is being told by him, but it's not
right,
in dialogue. And then we get
right.
that as an
Hmm.
insert.
Hmm.
So yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah, there were some structure things with the way this was written. I thought that let it move smoothly along, despite some of the other stuff we talked about. And that was one of them. Yep. Cool.
All
Yeah, no,
right.
the reason I was asking about the end was just because I liked it. I'm eager to see how they film that part. Assuming
Mm,
they do, there are repetitive parts of the story I feel like are going to get cut,
mm,
where it's like they go somewhere and then they're almost caught. You know what I'm
right.
saying? So I do wonder how many of those we'll really get to see.
Right.
So I feel like it could be this whole. I mean, with Tom dying, right? They're not going to take this one out. But I do wonder how much will stay with these, right? It's going to be fascinating to see the choices that they make. I feel like we should end up like when we finish the book, like make some predictions, or like before an episode's about to air, based on its name, make some predictions or
Well,
something.
I'm making this
Um,
prediction. We're going to get Logain. A scene
right.
of Logain, episode 1. You ready for that? You ready for that?
Episode one.
Episode 1.
Okay. Okay, well, it is true that they do get the news right away, so it
Mm-hmm.
could work
Yeah.
because Pat Fane delivers the news about the false dragon. So yeah, they could have shown him and then immediately get to Pat Fane. Yeah, no, for sure. And my prediction is that we will get to see the dude realize, connect the dots in the moment, who Tom actually Someone the Mirror Girl asked about. So that's my prediction.
All right.
All right. That is us for this chapter. If you would like to stay for overtime, we're going to talk a little bit more about Owen because I do have a response to one thing. But if you're good, we will see y'all next time for Shelter from the Storm.
All right. See you then, everybody.